All right, let's go ahead and get into it. The Boston Celtics versus the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Finals, a series that went 7 games that Miami could have won, if not for a Jimmy Butler missed pull-up three and a furious fourth quarter comeback, which kind of reminds me of the LeBron shot last night versus the Denver Nuggets, but that's neither here nor there. So let's go ahead and get into it. On the Heat side, the number one question would be, can Jimmy Butler be the best player in the series? He was last year. He was dealing with the knee injury that actually caused him to miss a couple games, but game 6 and game 7, he was definitely the best player on the floor. Can he replicate that type of performance? If you watch the Knicks series, he was not as dominant as he was in the Bucks series, but they didn't really need him to. And he was going through an ankle injury. He's gotten a couple of days of rest here. So, do we get the Jimmy Butler of the Bucks series? Because if we get that Jimmy Butler, they definitely can win that series. So, what does his health look like? His jumper was falling at a tremendous rate versus the Bucks. His jumper and his 3-pointer in particular falling at that same rate. If all those things happen, I think they definitely can win this series. So the first question would be Jimmy Butler. My second question would be, can Bam be the best big in the series? Now, Al Horford and Robert Williams really showed up well versus Joel Embiid. And obviously, Bam is not that offensive player, but he is, hellacious on the boards, the offensive boards. He struggled with his consistency, in particular in scoring this series last year. A lot of people were begging him to be more aggressive and more assertive. And it was pretty much up and down that whole series. Can he be, the aggressive Bam? If he gives them multiple 20-10 performances in this series, I think that they definitely have a chance to win it. So Al Horford, Robert Williams, they're coming off a 7-game series. They're coming off a series before, which is a 6-game series. You're putting a lot of tread on those tires. This is an opportunity for Bam, who's kind of felt slighted in his career by not winning particular awards, not being on particular teams, first team All NBA, All Star, things of that nature. This is a chance for him to show up and show out. So, can Bam be the best big in the series? That's my number 2 question. And finally, my last question for the Miami Heat would be the 3-point shooting. They've shot 3-pointers at a tremendous, tremendous clip in this series. They're going to need that. They shot threes really well versus the Bucks, shot threes really well versus the Knicks in their wins. This is a team that really struggled with shooting threes at the beginning of the season and really heated up at the end. It doesn't look like Tyler Hero is going to play. If you listen to my breakdown of the Heat Knicks series, I surmise that might actually be a good thing because that leaves one less target out there for other teams to hunt. But Duncan Robinson has made enough shots. Gabe Vincent has. These guys. Obviously, Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, Robinson when he's come in. So, is this something that can continue in this series of 3-point shooting? Because if they make their shots, generally they're a team that can win and reclaim the form that they had last year. On the other side, for the Boston Celtics, the number one question would be Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Last year, when they played this series, they were both turnover machines. It's going to be a big adjustment for them going into this series, into the last series where, the best defensive wing was 38-year-old PJ Tucker. This team is chock full of young wings, guys like, Jimmy Butler, Caleb Martin, even Max Strus. These are guys that have some size. Kyle Lowry and Gabe Vincent are capable wing defenders. So these are guys that have some size, have some athleticism. They're just not going to get rolled over in the way that PJ Tucker and Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris was. And you saw that in their matchup last year. The Heat did a good job in particular in, swiping at the ball at both of these ball handlers when Tatum and Brown whenever they came into the lane, and they were so effective at it that it got Tatum and Brown thinking, and both of them averaged more turnovers than assists when they played in that playoff last year. And there's been a level of comfort. They matched up 4 times the regular season, but there was trades and players missing, so I don't think you can really gather it. But one thing is for certain, they're not scared of playing the Boston Celtics. So, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I think it's going to be a big adjustment for them going from the last series when they pretty much had matchups all over to the court where, this is a team that has not only the athleticism and the size to defend them on the perimeter, but causes them to create tons of turnovers. So can they keep their turnovers back down, and can they play at high levels? That's my number one question. My second question for the Boston Celtics would definitely be their three-point shooting. If you watch them in the regular season, the biggest adjustment they've had from Ime Udoka to Joe Mazzulla is he just harps on the team shooting threes. And when they make threes, they win, and when they don't, they don't. If they're a 40% three-point shooting team, I think they have a crazy record, like 31-2. Whenever they don't shoot 40%, they're about a 500 team. So it's going to be, do they make their threes or not? Now, defense does play a part in that because they have these athletic wings, like I mentioned. I think there's going to be less dribble penetration, which leads to open spot up threes. So when they get their opportunities, do they make them? And those pull up contested threes that Jason Tatum was shooting at a ridiculous clip at the end of Game 6 and the whole Game 7. Is he making those threes at a relatively high clip in the series? If he does, then they can win. If he doesn't, then they won't. And then finally, the Celtics double big lineup. There was a reason that they went away from it. They had trouble scoring on teams when they went double big. But as I mentioned with the Sixers, their lack of wing depth really hurt them in this scenario. And regardless of the fact of the spacing not being there, teams were able to attack the Sixers because Tatum and Brown could pretty much beat their man off the first dribble. That's not going to be the case in this Miami series. So is this something that Joe Mazzulla is going to quickly abandon because they have a different opponent, or because it carried them to the win versus the Sixers when they were down 3-2? Does he stay stubborn? Does he stay with the lineup? All right, so prediction time. I'm going to go ahead and go with the upset. I'm going to go with Miami. I know ESPN has a 3% chance of winning, but I don't think Boston has played particularly well. I don't think that they should have won 6 games with the Atlanta Hawks. I don't think they probably should have went 7 games with the Philadelphia 76ers, to be truthful. They, especially the two wings, were having their way the whole series, and in both series. And for those series to be as tight as they were, I do blame coaching of the other teams, which we'll get into in another day. But I also just blame, fourth quarter execution. And those two things are not going to be issues for the Miami Heat. I think Miami's coming in with zero fear of this team. I think if anyone, the team that's going to be on the heels is Boston, knowing what Miami can bring, and knowing that this is a team that took them 7 last year and was a pull-up Jimmy Butler 3 away from winning it. Again, I think the loss of Tyler Hero might actually be a boon because he's one less player for them to attack. So I'm going to go with the Miami Heat. I think it's going to be a Cinderella. I'm picking the Lakers on the other side. I wasn't able to put that one out in time, but I think we get a bubble rematch in the finals. So I'm going to go with Miami Heat. I'm going to go with Miami Heat in 6. I would not be surprised. Again, Boston's the better team, but I think their mental lapses against a team as well coached as this, against a team as hungry as Miami is, and against a team that is, just knows where their bread is buttered in fourth quarter situations, which the Sixers just fell apart from, and particularly in Game 6. These things are not going to happen, and I predict Miami to win. All right, let me know what you think. Leave me a comment. I try to respond to the comments. As always, the game is the game.